Hey everybody, welcome back to the Inner Dialogue podcast. My name is Lissa and I'm your host today. And today we are back in my room, back for a cozy little episode. This is the vibe of the podcast that I'm going for. You know, like cozy, the plant in the background, my candle going, my diffuser, my little rock salt lamp. This is what I want the vibes to be for the pod. But it was really nice to be in the recording studio because it was just like very, very technologically easy to film and to get everything done there. But that's okay, you know, sometimes you gotta prioritize the aesthetic over the equipment. Another little change you might see in the background there is I changed around some of the paintings and decor in my room, so just a little tidbit for you. So today's episode is gonna be a super chill episode. It's not researched, it's my opinions, it's gonna be fun. And okay, let me do a big disclaimer here. This is quite literally my opinions only. If you disagree with me, awesome, love that for you. Please, like, you know, everyone can have their own opinions, but I thought today I would share with you some of my content. I thought today I would share with you some of my internet ins and outs for 2025, and honestly just for hopefully the rest of time, because I see a lot of stuff that I don't want to be seeing online, and I know that's my responsibility, you know, to not interact with that content, but I also think some people need to stop posting stuff that is not helpful. So let's jump right into this episode. We're talking about internet ins and outs, and if you have any internet ins and outs, let me know, put it in the comments. Yeah, feel free to share and let me know if you disagree with me or if you agree with me, and let's jump right into the episode. Okay, so I have my little list here. I got this idea today, so this is like pretty off the cuff. I don't have much like written down in terms of explanation, so we will see how this goes. This is very unscripted. My other two episodes were also pretty unscripted, but like some of it was a little bit like researched and stuff. This is just my opinions, as I said before. You know what, let's start with outs and then we can end on a good note with some ins. So first of all, for my first out, I have hate watching. This is something that I am extremely guilty of. I do this all the time. It's so bad. I really need to, which I feel like everybody does this to some extent. Basically just watching content that you don't like and you know that makes you mad, but you watch it anyway. I try to justify it by like trying to broaden my horizon of what kind of content I'm consuming and trying to not be stuck in an echo chamber, but it gets to a point where it's like, this is not good for me. This is not good for my own mental health, and this is not actually helping enrich my worldview. It's literally just making me angry. So that is going to be out. I'll probably still do it, to be honest, but I will be trying my best to not hate watch in 2025, and hopefully for the end of the year. And if that means blocking people who I watch just because it makes me mad and I want to see what they're up to, I'll block them. I will. And it's nothing against them. It's just, you know, that doesn't align with what I want to be seeing online. Next thing that is out for 2025 is body checking online. And I talked about this in my first episode about what I eat in a day videos. I really just think that body checking in videos, and it can be any kind of video, is not good. It sends a really bad message to people sometimes, and it is honestly just not something I want to be watching. I don't really care all that much about what other people look like. Actually, I really don't care. I really try not to care what other people look like, so I don't really want to be consuming that kind of content online. So that is definitely an out. Next up, okay, this is going to be controversial. We have brain rot. So this is mainly an Instagram Reels issue, I think, but whenever I go on there, I get infiltrated with brain rot videos. And honestly, yeah, it's funny, like, to an extent, but it's also just like, this is so low quality to be watching. It's not even making me laugh, it's just making me, like, question humanity and why this stuff exists on the internet. And I really think that we need to steer away from the brain rot trend. I actually was listening to a podcast, and apparently brain rot is like the word of the year in 2024, which really goes to show what the internet is becoming. So I will be steering away from brain rot as much as possible next year. And I don't know how I'm going to be doing that, but I will. And yes, I do enjoy the occasional brain rot video, but once it gets to a certain point, it's just like really... Another thing I see a lot that bothers me so much is Amazon must-haves, and it's stuff that like genuinely nobody has ever thought they needed before. And then when you see it, you kind of are like, maybe I do need that. Like a fancy kitchen device that like has one use. Like just like weird kitchen gadgets that you never actually thought you would need. And then when you see it, you kind of think you need it. I promise you, you don't fall for it, okay? Just don't. So I do not want to be seeing Amazon must-haves on my For You page in the new year, and also not even now. I want Amazon must-have videos far away from me. I don't need to be spending more money. Everything costs so much as it is. Like genuinely, I don't need to be buying any more unnecessary stuff. And you know what? That kind of goes into my next point, which is Stanley restocks. That is going to be a big out for me for next year. And I will admit, yes, sometimes I do watch those videos. Yes, sometimes I do watch those videos for a good half hour. Are they satisfying? Yes. Are they really annoying to watch, which is like a weird guilty pleasure of mine? Yes. But that is why they are going to be out for me in 2025. I don't need to see some random girl packing her Stanley to go on a walk. Like, I genuinely don't. And the thing about those videos is I know they are rage bait. I mean, I hope that these creators aren't actually packing their Stanley with like 500 bajillion accessories to go for a walk, but it still gets me. Like, it still makes me mad. And I know they're just doing it for the views and the money and whatever, but it makes me really angry. And I do not want to be seeing those. And then next up, we have watching movies on TikTok. I try not to do this because it's really like another level of brain rot. But whenever I'm on there and I see like a video of like a movie or a TV show and it's stitched with like an ASMR soap cutting video, it really does something where it kind of pulls you in and you start watching it, and then you go and watch like the whole movie in like 7,000 parts, or like the TV show. And I think as a society, we need to be over that. We need to start watching movies without Subway Surfers gameplay on the side. I know it's hard, but I fear we might have to actually start paying attention to a movie with our full attention. So that's gonna be an out for me, guys. Another thing that's out, this one's a little bit more serious, is I've seen a lot of stuff this year about, and okay, I think people are gonna think that I'm like diving way too deep into this, and it's not that deep and it's just a joke, but the fat jokes and like skinny jokes that I've seen online a lot this year have gotten to a place where it's like not funny anymore. Today I saw a video of a girl who was in a car and she was like, my biggest fear is being fat and having loser kids and being poor. And I know it's like, haha, a joke, but that's like not really funny, and honestly it just makes people feel really bad about themselves. And I don't think we should ever be saying like your biggest fear is to be fat. That's just, there's so many things wrong with that. Like, even if that is true, that's gonna be an inside thought. That's not gonna be a thought that you should be putting out on the internet. And then also, I mean, I think this year there's been a lot of jokes about like, you know, like, my waist is so small, like, nobody could see me, or just stuff like that. And I feel like it was a little bit funny at first, and then, I don't know, it just got a little bit serious, where it's like, yeah, people actually do feel that way about body image, and like people actually do really, really want to be thin that badly. So I really hope that becomes less of a trend next year. I hope we kind of see a diminish of that type of content. And also, this is more a comment section thing, but like people making fat jokes in comments of people who are literally just existing online, doing whatever they're doing, and their body looks literally anything outside of the ideal women's body type, and then people just ripping her apart in the comments. That has got to stop. And not just, like, a lot of these are just like my opinion, like stuff I don't want to be saying. That I'm like, guys, let's all collectively stop doing that. Moving on, we have influencer merch and scams. So this is particularly prevalent right now because of the pajama scandal that went on. I guess it's still going on a little bit, but the Christmas pajama scandal that is kind of happening right now with two influencers. And I mean, I've been watching a lot of commentary on that, and I do think it's really interesting to like talk about that kind of stuff. But just stuff like that, and like influencers releasing products that are not really good quality, or merch that isn't really helpful or useful to anybody. I think that I don't want to be seeing that anymore. I don't want to be seeing scams online. I just think it gets to a place where it's like, this is too much. We're doing much too much. And also, not everyone has to have a brand for everything. And I know that's like ironic, because one day I would love to like have my own business and start my own coffee shop and have a little clothing line. But I think that if you're not actually passionate about the thing that you want to have a business for, you probably shouldn't be doing it just for the money. So, I don't know. I hope that people, maybe off the back of this whole pajama scandal, if you don't know what I'm talking about, Isabella Lanter did a video about it, so did Kiki Chanel and Hannah Alonso. They all did videos about it. Just search up like pajama scandal, pajama gate, whatever. It's very interesting. But I hope that off the back of that, people start to realize like we need to be a little bit more cautious of influencers, brands, and the cash grabs that are happening with people who get internet fame. I don't know. I think that would be probably a good thing. And then next up we have cores. And I mean, I don't hate this. It's not like I want people to stop like having self-expression and stuff. I think that's great, obviously, but I think this super like niche and like micro labeling of aesthetics, I don't want to see that next year, guys. And I think the problem with these types of videos that are like the micro labeling and like ballerina core, and you know, I think the issue with videos that are like all about like what you need to be this type of girl, or clean girl essentials, or that kind of thing, is mostly it just really promotes like buying stuff, and that really annoys me. I got kind of trapped in this at one point with like running stuff when I was getting into, I guess, sort of like my triathlon and doing more longer distance stuff as opposed to like the track stuff. I was really wanting to buy like equipment and new shoes and a running vest, and you know, like stuff like that can be fun to like really like put yourself into identity that you align with, and do stuff and buy stuff that makes you happy and like makes you feel like you fit into that. But I also think like it's so online, like it's so intense of what a certain type of person looks like, who's a part of any identity, or who's a part of like a hobby, or like, you know, all these different little niches. So I think we collectively need to be a little bit more like open to people doing all kinds of things. And I really especially don't want to see videos that are like saying like what you need to buy to look like this, or what you need to do or act like to enjoy this hobby, or you know, just stuff like that. I think that we can definitely do without that. And then next I have fear-mongering and spreading misinformation on Instagram Reels specifically. So I don't know if it's just my algorithm or if it's everybody's, but I cannot escape the fear-mongering crowd on Instagram Reels. And you know, if some people are like thinking that's something they want to be a part of, the conspiracy theories and all that, you know what, be my guest, like go ahead. But me personally, I don't really want to see that. For example, I see a lot of the like seed oils and how we need to get rid of plastic cutting boards and living a really non-toxic life. And I actually do think that some of those things can be good, and like, you know, it's always great to strive to be as, I guess, natural as you choose to be, but it can be really aggressive on Instagram Reels where people are like, you're gonna die if you don't do this. And I'm like, whoa, can we not? And then there is a fair bit of misinformation. I mean, there's misinformation everywhere online, but I do see a lot of it on Instagram Reels with like the conspiracy theories. And I'm not an expert on any of these things by any means, but like there are some things that people say on there that I just am like, I know these are not true. I know this is just blatant misinformation. So I don't want to be seeing any of that. Maybe I need to take it upon myself to block some of those creators, or to try to get my algorithm away from that kind of thing. But I do think that kind of content, just because it's so radical and so attention grabbing sometimes, gets pushed out a lot. I'm sure anybody who is around my age or like Gen Z and who has similar-ish interest in mine has seen that. So that's definitely gonna be a big out for me. I don't want to be seeing any of that kind of thing. And that kind of also extends to like the really extreme diets of like carnivore diet, which that could be a whole episode in itself. Yeah, I don't want to see that kind of stuff on my algorithm. And then next is clickbait and rage bait. This is not going anywhere. This is basically what the internet feeds off of to get views and interactions, but that's a big out for me for this next year. I really dislike any video that, even if it has a good message, it's really aggravating when it comes packaged in like rage bait or clickbait. Even, for example, some of the Jubilee videos, I think some of them have a good message, but a lot of the time they're very clickbaity or rage bait, and like thumbnails of so many videos online are, or on YouTube specifically, are just designed to get you to click on it. I think there's a line there, like some of it can be like valid, you're just trying to get people to watch your video and that's, you have to play into the algorithm, but a lot of the times it's just annoying, and yeah, big out for that one. And then finally on the outs we have body, face, and insecurity trends. So I don't have any specific examples for this that I can think of right now, but I think we've just seen, or I've just seen like a rise in these really weird little trends, especially involving like filters and like checking to see if your face is symmetrical, or body type trends, the whole kind of Ozempic like body type thing going on right now in celebrity culture. I think that those trends are just, there's so many things wrong with that, and it's just teaching people more ways to feel bad about themselves, and that's the last thing we need in the world, actually. Like, I genuinely wish that people could know less about how they are quote-unquote supposed to look, and yeah, trends like that just honestly do the opposite. They teach people to feel worse about themselves, and they teach people to seek out ways to make themselves fit into a mold better, and that's gonna be a big out for 2025. So yeah, that's all the things that I'm like not gonna be watching, not gonna be interacting with. If you agree with any of those, then the best thing to do to get that content to stop being pushed out on an individual level is to just stop interacting with it, which can be really hard when those videos are designed to like get to your head and, you know, get pushed out. But yeah, block people you don't want to see, scroll past something that you know right off the bat is promoting something you don't want to be watching. Another thing you can do is using TikTok and Instagram. I think they both have like algorithm tuner, I don't know what you would call it, but you can click 3 dots and do like don't recommend content like this. It's either Instagram or TikTok where you can actually filter out specific words. So if there was something you just really didn't want to see, you can just filter it out and not see that stuff. So yeah, I think in the next year we should all be really careful about what we're consuming and how it might be affecting us on a subconscious and conscious level, which I was talking about in the first episode. So if you missed that, go watch it. And then let's move on. Okay, let's move on to something a little bit more positive. So we're going to be talking about my internet ins for 2025. I have a pretty big list here. So yeah, grab a snack, grab a drink, and let's go through these. I like to end things on a happier note because the last thing you want is to be turning off a podcast and you're just in a bad mood of all the awful things that exist in the world. So yeah, let's get right into these. First of all, something I've recently discovered on TikTok, which, yes, I know I said I deleted TikTok on the weekends in my last episode. I've been trying to do that still, but this week has been hard for me, and I've been going on it a little bit. And I've also been uploading clips of the podcast to, like, TikTok and Instagram, so I've just been keeping it on my phone for now. Anyway, that's a total other conversation. But yeah, I discovered these coloring book videos. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you probably have actually seen some of them potentially. But yeah, it's just like these really simplistic coloring books that are like super bold and really cute and cozy looking, and then it's just people coloring them in basically with alcohol markers, and they're so cute, and some people are so creative with it, and I just love watching them. They're so calming. I forget the girl who I watch most of the time, but she's like one of the, I think she may have started the trend. But yeah, coloring book videos, love them. I might buy a coloring book. I already have markers, so that could be really fun, not just to watch but also to participate in. And also, it doesn't mean you need to go out and buy like 5 coloring books and a whole bunch of marker packs. I think that, you know, with any trend there's the urge to like tap into the overconsumption, but you can just use what you have around. You can print stuff out, and it's also fun to treat yourself to some new stuff, so if you want to, that you could, but keep that in mind. Okay, next up we have history. So I've been listening to a podcast for probably about a year now called Girl Historians, and they did a first season on the Titanic and then one on the Salem witch trials, and now they're doing one on the wives of Henry VIII, I believe, and it's just so fun. I love learning about history, and it's something that has always interested in me, but in school it's taught really weirdly. I feel like we only learn about very specific events, and it's kind of just like, you know, at school you have to learn about it, but when you learn about history on your own, it's so interesting. So yeah, Girl Historians, highly recommend them. And then honestly, the Crash Course World History videos are so fun to watch. I love them. They're so funny. So yeah, get into some history in 2025. Next up, we have perfume reviews on TikTok. I was talking about this in an episode, I think it was last episode. It's just so fun to watch, and I'm not like a huge perfume connoisseur. I have like a couple, but I just love to watch people do perfume reviews, especially of like really weird perfumes, and then they like talk about all the different notes, top notes, base notes, middle notes, and it's such a chill vibe. I love perfume people on TikTok. They're so like just cool girl energy. And then next up we have podcasts in general, but mostly like funny but also smart podcasts. That's what I wrote down. Funny and smart podcasts. So I'm talking about like stuff that's like, it is educational, you know, they do like talk about stuff and research stuff, but it's always funny. It always has some level of humor or just like not super seriousness to it. So my recs would be Bingetopia. I love the Broski Report, which that one I would say is more comedy, but sometimes she gets into some really like interesting art history topics, and it's just such a fun listen. You never know what you're gonna get, but it's so good. Any podcast that's just educational but also entertaining is very much in for 2025. For me, it's been in for like years, but I'm going to be listening to more of them in 2025 and hopefully finding some new ones, because I love my classics. I love Bingetopia, but yeah, I would also love to discover something new. And then next we have YouTube videos, which is probably the like most obvious and boring recommendation ever for ins for the internet, but I'm talking like moving away from short form content and watching more long form content, because you know, obviously we know our attention spans have been fried by the internet and TikTok and all that stuff. So I think that the internet is a really cool place. There's so much interesting stuff on there. And one of the best ways to really dive into that is, instead of watching short form content where you can only fit so much into it, to go ahead and head over to YouTube and see what you can find there. There's so many interesting channels, and I really love commentary videos. That's like my go-to whenever I'm just bored, or a lot of the time when I'm eating or doing dishes. Anytime that I want to listen to something but I also kind of want to watch something, I'll put on a commentary video about whatever. And you know, it's always good to learn something while also relaxing, because I think with TikTok and Instagram it is relaxing but you're not necessarily learning all that much. But yeah, I think that long form content is gonna be coming back in popularity. I think it already has with like the rise of podcasts and stuff, but really I want to tap into that next year and tune into more educational and long form content. And then next up I have, so this is, I don't know if this is like a trend or a niche or whatever, but I've been really loving watching like graphic design videos on TikTok and Instagram. It's so cool to watch other people be creative, and it's so inspiring. I get so many ideas, and it makes me really excited to work on projects and like think about what I might want to do creatively in the future. If you're not someone who is particularly like creative or is interested in that kind of thing, then this could just be any sort of niche creator that you enjoy watching that inspires you. But yeah, for me, like any graphic design videos or just like art videos, I really like watching people who show their creative process and kind of, yeah, inspire me. My recommendations for content creators are Girl in Blue Studios. I've been really liking her content lately. She shows like her ideas for like branding and stuff. I think she does marketing and like graphic design. And there's also a guy on TikTok who does book cover designing. It's so cool to see what he makes and how he makes it. And yeah, it's just like I really want to be watching more stuff that inspires me instead of makes me want to be on my phone more. Next up, we have Substack blogs. So I think that this is also something that is definitely gaining popularity and gaining traction right now. I think there's been a general fatigue with like the short form brain rot style content, and I've seen more and more people starting Substacks and even like getting quite a bit of popularity on their Substacks. So Eliza McLam, she's one of my favorite artists, and she hosts Bingetopia. She has a Substack. She does so many cool things on there. She does an advice column, she does essays, and it's just really good to like read, obviously. It's obviously good to try and read more, and there's so many interesting Substack blogs that you can find. Another girl I recently subscribed to does just like really cute little like guides to different things and just advice, and yeah, there's just like so many cool people online who have really cool ideas, and you can never go wrong with reading more. Like you really can. And if you're still in school, you know, if you're in English class, reading more essay style stuff can help you with your own writing. So yeah, something to consider and something to add to your content repertoire for 2025. Next we have vlogs. So obviously vlogs have always been popular, but I feel like people have kind of departed from the YouTube vlogs, like long form YouTube vlogs. There's a lot more popularity for like TikTok and short form vlogs, but the OG like vlog YouTubers, I really hope that they start getting like a lot more traction again, because it's just so fun to watch. Like it can be really nice to just like be in your room cleaning up and doing stuff and having a vlog in the background. It's parasocial to say, but it is like kind of having a friend there with you. And yeah, it's also kind of like a romanticization of life, and a lot of these people are influencers, so they obviously have very aspirational lives and it won't always look like what you want it to look like, but I think it's just so fun to watch people kind of like document their life in a really creative way. Maya Benway has been my favorite YouTuber or vlogger for a long time now, and she always does Vlogmas, and I'm so impressed because that's like literally a vlog every day for a month, like a full vlog. And then I think it's Remy Ashton who also does Vlogmas, and I think that we need to be dialing in to our vlog girlies again. Like they're still out there making videos, and yeah, it's time to tune back in. I think it was like 2015, 2018 was like the vlogger era, like with Emma Chamberlain and stuff, but I think we need to come back to that, you guys. I think we really need to in 2025, or start your own vlog channel. I started making my own vlogs like last year just with like track and stuff, and then I've also done some other, you know, non-running related vlogs, and it's really fun to like kind of pretend you're your own little influencer in your own life and curate your own vibe and put on YouTube. And obviously it's not like for anything unless you're actually trying to grow a channel, but it's just, you know, it's fun to romanticize your own life. Next up, we have yoga and meditation. So it's winter. I've been stressed, obviously. Living in Canada, it is cold and it is dark and the sun sets at 4, and I've just been so anxious, and I've been trying to incorporate more meditation and yoga into my routine, which is really hard sometimes, but it's really helpful. And there's so many yoga videos online and little guided meditations that can be really helpful. And that's like one thing I mean when I say like the internet has a lot of great things on it. Like back when, you know, YouTube didn't exist, if you wanted to do a meditation or a yoga video, you'd put a, you know, thing in your VCR and watch it like that or on a DVD, but we have access to so many resources, and I think next year, 2025, we need to be tapping into that and really maximizing our use for the internet. Instead of just like consuming the content mindlessly, we need to be like using the internet to help better our lives in any way we possibly can. So yeah, just like putting on a little yoga flow and doing that before bed, or a little guided meditation. Doesn't have to be anything crazy, just like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I think that's going to be my vibe for the winter, especially just because it gets hard to stay off of my phone and stay off of, the doom scroll, and a little bit of movement is really nice. And especially, if I'm not doing a ton of running, which I'm on a little bit of a run break right now, so I'm trying to do a little bit more yoga and stuff like that, just to keep me feeling good and moving my body. And breathwork is really helpful. I hate to say it because I was always somebody who was just like skeptical of that, but it does help. And then next we have newsletters. So I did kind of talk about this with the Substacks. It's kind of similar, but there's a lot of media publications that have newsletters, and I'm talking more like independent, and I'm talking more about like independent publications. I mean, you could, sign up to any newsletter you want. There's probably a New York Times one or whatever, but I really like the Shameless Media podcasts. They have so many different ones, and those are just the podcasts, but they also have a newsletter, Smart Dumb Stuff, and it's just like pop culture news and like the top stories, and it's just fun to read. And I love stuff that gets emailed to you. It feels so like personal, and it always looks so nice. It's super well designed. And another one I like is Infinite Scroll. Shout out, I love that podcast. Literally the best podcast there ever is on like pop culture and that kind of thing. But they have a weekly newsletter as well, which like rounds up the top stories and stuff. So yeah, it's a good way to get your news that's not like video format. And yeah, again, like a little bit of extra reading never hurt you. And that could also be something you incorporate in a routine instead of like scrolling through the news or going on a news site. Yeah, you get to like check your inbox and there's a newsletter right there. And then next up we have Patreon. But yeah, I feel like a lot of people are turning to Patreon more because obviously people can pay for their content that way. And there's so many really, really, really cool people who are online who do like podcasts or videos or whatever, and who also have Patreon. I am a Bingetopia Patreon, proudly. Definitely the best podcast. Definitely one of my favorite podcasts, and it's kind of like a treat for myself. There's so many other people's Patreons that I want to subscribe to so badly, but like I think it is fun to just have like one or two. So I don't know, like maybe choosing a couple for a Christmas present to yourself or a Christmas present to somebody else can be really fun. And then it also gives you something fun to look forward to that's not like, it gives you, you kind of have that like special access, like, or like early access to episodes of a podcast, or, bonus episodes. So I think that can be really fun to have something online that is not just, mindlessly scrolling. So yeah, I think it can be really fun to have access to that, because it's just like sometimes just like that extra like higher quality of content, or like video episodes instead of audio episodes, and it's just a really nice treat to have something like that you can have access to. And then next up I have underconsumption. This is a trend that was popular a couple months ago. It's, in the internet cycle of things, it's getting pretty old now, but I think that we need to be embracing that in the next year, and not just like underconsumption, but just like using what we have. And not everything has to have a like monetary attachment to it. Like a hobby doesn't always have to mean you need to go out and buy new stuff, or getting into makeup doesn't mean you have to go and buy a ton of new makeup. You can just buy a couple products you like. Back to school shopping doesn't mean you have to revamp your wardrobe. I think that kind of mindset is something I really want to see online more in 2025, and not even like in an aggressive way of never buy anything again, but just in a people have normal lives and normal budgets, and we don't need to be doing a $3 million like clothing haul every year. Obviously that's an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. And then next up, dopamine menus. I've already talked about this, so just writing down stuff that you can do in a moment of not knowing what you want to do that gives you some dopamine. And next we have Hopecore. This has been around for a while, but I think that the more you interact with this content, it really, really gets pushed at you, so that can always be nice to have on your feed. This is basically just like, a lot of it is like memes or like really picturesque photos with like a quote on it, but not in a cringe way. Like, if you don't know what this is, I literally don't know how to describe it to you, but it's just like really happy vibes content, but in a way that is chill. That's the literal only way I can describe it in words. And next up, I have pop culture podcasts. So I really think that to get off the internet and to sort of stop scrolling so much, a really, really good thing to do is to get your news somewhere else. So obviously it's still going to be a podcast, it's still on your phone, but in 2025, I think that we need to get off the scroll, get off the never-ending doom scroll, and I think that listening to a pop culture podcast can be really helpful because you don't feel like you're missing out, you know you're up to date, you're not like off the like internet culture zeitgeist, you know what's going on, but you kind of get a more nuanced opinion and you're not constantly scrolling and scrolling just to find that little bit of prevalent or relevant internet culture. You just kind of get it really nicely delivered to you from somebody who is like a journalist and knows what they're talking about. And I really recommend Infinite Scroll, which I already talked about, and Mini Scroll specifically. So that's the same podcast, but the host just does like literally every day a little podcast going over like the main stories, and that is so helpful if you're trying to get off your phone or if that's like a goal you have for the next year, because you literally could just not go on social media and still know what's going on. So highly recommend that. Next up, I have influencer transparency. So for the internet, it can be a very, very fake place, highly edited, you know, it's a highlight reel, and I really want to see more influencers being honest and sharing like behind the scenes things or really talking about what it's actually like to be an influencer and do their job. I think there's been so much like of this like putting influencers up on the same level as like celebrities, which, you know, I think some of them are, but really idolizing influencers, and it's really rare that you'll see somebody talking about what it's actually like and how they're literally just normal people who've decided to post content on the internet. So I'm hoping in the upcoming year we start to see a change in that, and I do think people are maybe valuing influencer transparency a little more lately, but I really hope we see like a shift towards that. And then finally, I have, this is so random, I don't know why it's my last one, but listener write-in style podcasts. These are just so fun to listen to. I love a good story time. I love a good embarrassing moment story time. And podcasts like that are just so refreshing to listen to if you're someone who's really into like pop culture and reporting and journalism and that kind of stuff, or like heavily researched podcasts, because it just like it's such a nice distraction, and also so nice to listen to while you're running or painting or just doing like a task where you don't need to be fully focused on what you're listening to. You need to be like kind of dialed into what you're doing, but you just want to listen to something in the background. For this, I really recommend Maddie Mitchell's podcast, Park Car Convos. She does so many listener write-in videos that are so funny. The stuff people write in is actually insane. Like, I literally have laughed out loud while I'm running listening to that. And I'm not kidding. I wish I was kidding, but sometimes I'll be walking down the street and I'm like smiling, and I catch myself smiling and laughing out loud. Another one that's kind of similar is Everybody Has a Secret by Shameless Media. They do like a listener write-in secret and then they kind of talk about it. I love that one. So funny. But yeah, those are my internet ins and outs for the next year, and hopefully for, you know, the continuing trajectory of internet culture. And yeah, I think hopefully for 2025 we can have a little bit more positivity on the internet, a little bit more honesty, all these values. I think we really need to bring more to the internet, because it can be a really scary place sometimes. There's a lot of negativity, there's a lot of hate, and I don't know, I just really hope that there becomes more spaces online that can be positive and creative and actually what I think the internet was meant for, which is connection, which I think we are so disconnected from each other, just the way the internet is right now. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I love talking about things like this that interest me, and please let me know if you enjoyed the episode. You can listen on Spotify, you can listen on YouTube, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!